Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back in another video from Ham on Beat. We are checking out JoJo Fun Facts numero 8. That's number 8. You know the rules. If this starts getting into anything after Stone Ocean, we're pausing it, skipping through, potentially ending. Let's see what fun facts we got today.
She's up there! Ham on the beat!
Welcome back to another episode of JoJo Fun Facts, where I go over all kinds of trivia related to the JoJo series. JoJo has had a lot of interesting releases lately, with Part 9 going strong and some great adaptations. So with that, we have a ton of new fun facts to go over, so let's get right to them. In the last video, I went over the 2 JoJo World events celebrating the JoJo anime, which have...
Yeah, like, I wish this thing that I went to Comic-Con last year was like this. It was literally just like a little jail cell with weather report to post with pictures with, and then like a couple of cool things to buy.
A ton of cute little attractions and mini games. Well, it recently got a follow-up with JoJo World Quizzes, shortened to JoJo World Q. This is yet another amusement center based on the JoJo anime, this time with a focus on quizzes related to the series. It started in March of 2024 and is planned to run for a full year at venues all across Japan. We actually have a really close look at the attractions in it thanks to a few videos posted to the official Bandai channel where we walk through the attraction with Jolene's voice actress Fairo's Eye and the idol Alzora Serrano. The first attraction to look at is JoJo's Quiz and Adventure. This is an interactive quiz with questions about the JoJo anime. You start by picking what part you want to answer questions for before moving into a booth with up to 2 people. You answer a multiple choice question about the part. In this example, they chose Part 5, and the question is, what was Trish disguised as when she first appeared? It also requires you to do some actions, like mimicking the torture dance.
Class, that's so cool, I love it!
Then there's a question where you have to choose the order of events for a scene. It ends by punching a cushioned pad in the room to mimic beating up the villain.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool,
For playing,
I love it!
You get a poster of one of the characters. Then there's JoJo's Memory Roulette, a chance-based game. You start by loading a film canister into the camera which represents different parts. By turning the crank, it plays a scene, and depending on the scene, you get a letter grade which determines your prize. The prizes include things like buttons or a poster. Next is the Joestar Family Bloodline Lottery. Here you touch random parts of the screen to see which JoJo character you're related to. And depending on your results, you get one of 3 types of prizes. We also have Bucciarati's Find Pulpo's Fortune. This is a simple drawing raffle based on the scene with Pulpo's treasure hidden behind the urinal. You reach in and draw some treasure, which gets you a Bucciarati-related prize.
I love all this. This is so cool.
The most interesting of these are the Bucciarati hair clips, which look like the ones he wears. Lastly, we have the SPW Foundation Entrance Exam. Here you take a JoJo quiz to join the Speedwagon Foundation. They keep the quiz answers a secret in the YouTube video, but you do see some activities like putting together a puzzle. For playing, you actually get a Speedwagon Foundation ID card made for yourself. You can also choose your own ID number. Fairo's Eye made it the same as Jolene's prisoner number. Like all these kinds of events, there's also some unique food options. First is a minestrone soup inspired by Dio. It comes with slices of bread, based on the famous line when he asks Zeppeli how many pieces of bread he's eaten. There's an Ultimate Cars-themed fruit drink, and a cute stray cat dessert that looks like a planter.
That's so awesome.
For entrees, there's a Jotaro-themed black curry with garnishes based on his accessories and chain. And a Sex Pistols open salami sandwich based on the scene when Mista fed them. Then there's a Jolene parfait with some chocolate sticks representing Cell bars. And lastly, an Iggy Donut. Once again, a very cute event, and I always love going over these.
Yeah, they seem so freaking cool. I'd love something like that.
For the next fun facts, I want to go over some interesting stuff from the Phantom Blood musical. If you didn't already know, this is a stage musical adaptation of Part 1 that ran from February to April of 2024. It recently got an English fan translation. I watched it before then, and I still immensely enjoyed it, and it's one of my favorite JoJo adaptations ever. I want to go over it in much more detail once I can do a proper rewatch with subtitles, but for now I want to talk about some interesting things it added. One of these is that it actually gave some new names to characters that never had them before.
Oh.
According to the musical screenwriter, he chose the names and they were then approved by Shueisha and Araki.
Nice. That is so cool that Araki gave the go-ahead for it.
He says that the names were based on musicians and UK bands,
Right.
fitting with the setting. The two bully characters from early on are now named Cabbage and Stark. They seem to be based on the English punk bands Cabbage and Janice Stark. Speedwagon's
Never
friends
heard of
also
them.
got names. They were originally known as Tattoo and Kempo Fighter, and are now named Cronin and Amato. Fittingly, these are actually references to members of the band REO Speedwagon. The last one is the Scotland Yard Inspector, who is now named Archer, possibly after the guitarist Jem Archer. He actually has a very expanded role in the musical and is introduced earlier than he was originally as a friend of George's. He has some new lines near the beginning where he foreshadows Jack the Ripper's appearance, and funnily enough, this actor is actually the one who plays Jack later. There's actually a lot of actors in dual roles, something that's very common for plays.
Right.
Jonathan and Zeppeli both have two actors, which appear on separate performances with a total of 4 different combinations. For double roles within the show, other than Archer and Jack the Ripper, many of the background characters can be spotted all over the play. In the opening scene adapting the beginning of the manga, the Aztec sacrifice girl later appears as background characters and zombies. She's also Queen Elizabeth I in the scene describing Tarkus and Bruford's backstory.
Right.
She only appears as a shadow, but thanks to a behind-the-scenes picture from Wang Chan's actor
That's
Junpei
brilliant.
Shimada, we know who she is. Here we can also see that Wang Chan plays the Executioner, which is pretty smart since they just had to throw a hood on his head for him to show up as a shadow. The actress for Mary Stuart appears as part of the Aztec tribe and has other background roles, including being one of the dancers that represents the Ripple. Lastly, Bruford's actor appears earlier as the minor character Cabbage. Speaking of Tattoo and Kempo Fighter, a lot of people don't remember that Speedwagon actually had a third friend in the manga. In the scene where Speedwagon visits Jonathan at the hospital, there's an extra bit at the beginning which the anime cuts out, where Speedwagon and his friends arrive on a car. Here you see a third friend wearing a hat with a feather in it. He never has any dialogue, but he actually reappears near the end, with the group wishing farewell to Jonathan and
Right.
Irina.
Cool.
Of course, the anime ended up just cutting him out completely here. Interestingly though, the Phantom Blood PS2 game actually bothers to include him in that scene, which
I love it. I love it. Just random fun facts. It's great.
is kind of funny since this is his only other appearance in anything
Outside of the
outside the
manga.
original manga.
Wow.
Another overlooked character is Dio's mother. You might not know this, but Dio's mother has never appeared in the manga or anime of JoJo. Some of you might be thinking of the opening scene where Dario finds the wreckage where he had a woman with him. However, this is actually an entirely separate character. She's only ever referred to as a woman from a bar, and she just happened to be walking with Dario that night. We actually
Right.
learn later that she testified against him to the inspector, which is how Dario got arrested, so she isn't his wife. The musical also gives her a name, but only kind of. In their first scene, Dario calls her by 2 different names, Cammy and Debbie, implying that he actually doesn't know her
Know
real
who
name.
she is, right?
Also, thanks to the musical, we actually have the first ever appearance of Dio's mother. She appears in a flashback in Dario's song, Voice Calling from the Darkness.
Oh.
Here we see her and Dio cowering from Dario's abuse, although thankfully we also got a wholesome picture of the 3 actors together.
Lovely.
The Thus Bokushibe Rohan chapter, At a Confessional, is one of the few so far to receive an OVA adaptation. I've made a series of videos going over the changes made in these adaptations, and David Production usually sticks very close to the original manga while adding some neat details.
The OVAs are great as well. I love them. They're fantastic.
One of these details I never actually caught on to was a hint they added to the identity of the Confessor. If you remember, the Confessor was the man who was cursed by the evil spirit of a homeless man, who swore to come back to take revenge. So he had himself and his servant undergo plastic surgery to swap appearances and trick the ghost. In the story, you have no idea about this until it's revealed at the end, where he tricked his servant into dying and is now haunted by him too. In the OVA, however, a mole is added to the Confessor's neck, which remains as the only clue of who's who. The Rohan TV drama has become one of my favorite JoJo adaptations of recent years, and it's been going strong with 9 episodes adapting Rohan's stories across 4 seasons and a feature film. One of the best things about it are the little hidden details they add to a lot of the episodes, which sometimes include cameos from voice actors that can be heard in the background.
Oh.
In the first season, Rohan's anime voice actor Takahiro Sakurai can be heard in every episode. In Millionaire Village, he's the voice of a police officer. In Kushagara, he's heard over the radio, and in DNA, he's making an announcement in the hospital. In the second season, Sakurai's cameos continue, but he's also joined by Jolene's voice actress Fairoz Ai.
Very cool.
In The Run, they voice 2 gym members. In From Behind, which adapts the Cheap Trick arc, they voice paramedics. And in Mutsukabe Hill, Takahiro Sakurai is a bus driver while Fairoz Ai is making an announcement in the village. Finally, in the Rohan at the Louvre movie, the voice of Kai Harada can be heard being listened to by Rohan's grandma over the radio, which is the radio announcer that was added for the Part 4 anime. Speaking of the Rohan drama, there was actually a very interesting piece of news about it recently. In May of 2024, Rohan's actor Issei Takahashi and Rohan's editor Izumi's actress Marie Itoyo announced that they had gotten married. They said that they grew close while working on the drama together and started a relationship.
Ain't that
I
nice?
actually remember a couple years prior where there were some rumors of them being together. Apparently this information came from Itoyo's friends who said they had great chemistry together and that instead of going out to eat, they would often cook meals for each other after work. I wrote it off after not hearing about it for a while, but apparently it was true since they announced their marriage. One thing I've been taking a look at lately is the relationship between the JoJo
Fist of the
series
North
and
Star.
another iconic manga, Fist of the North Star.
Okay.
Like JoJo, it just had a big anniversary and it's also getting a new anime soon.
Oh, whoa. Is that true? Because I've never watched the original Fist of the North Star, but if they remake it, interesting. Alright.
People often compare the two, and one common opinion you'll see is that early on, JoJo was ripping off Fist of the North Star, or was at least heavily inspired by it. I never quite got the idea that it was ever based that much on the series, since story-wise, the two are obviously vastly different.
Very much so.
However, there is an undeniable
I'm aware of Fist of the North Star. Like, I know I've not seen the anime, but the stories are. Nope, they're not the same.
influence in the series, and Araki often pays homage to his favorite artists, with Tetsuo Hara being no exception. In Phantom Blood, there are notably multiple panels referencing ones from Fist of the North Star. First is this image of Speedwagon running in his first introduction, based on this panel of
Very
Juza from
similar.
chapter 115. The image of Zeppeli punching the frog is referencing Rao
Oh.
punching Juza from chapter 119. The panel of Zeppeli splitting the rock is based on this image of Ein punching
Very
the ground
cool.
in chapter
Okay.
158. The panel of Jonathan punching Tarkus is based on one of Ein punching Kenshiro from chapter 141.
Ooh.
And this pose from Dio during his fight with Jonathan is based on an illustration of Kenshiro from the cover of Weekly Shonen Jump.
Sick.
In part 3, there's a few more references, although these aren't lifted directly. The panel of the man showing the holes made by the stand Justice is very similar to the panel of Jagi revealing his scars. And Whole Horse's gun being turned around at him is reminiscent of the same happening to Jagi later. And the page of Jotaro beating up all of Justice's minions is similar to this spread of Kenshiro fighting Alf.
Yo.
That's it for art references, but as many people are likely aware, the JoJo series itself directly mentions Fist of the North Star during the Bohemian Rhapsody arc in Stone Ocean, with a newscast reporting on Kenshiro and Rao having a battle after being brought to life by the stand. Araki himself has also touched on the influence it's had on the series. He says that at the time of JoJo's first publication, Fist of the North Star was very popular, as well as 80s Hollywood action films which influenced the physicality of those early parts. Araki has also gone on to draw Kenshiro on 2 different occasions. First was back in 2007 for an issue of the magazine Comic Bunch.
Right.
Then in October of 2023, he drew Kenshiro again for the Fist of the North Star 40th anniversary exhibition. What you may not know is that Araki and Tetsuo Hara are actually friends in real life.
That is so cool.
They first met at a manga award party shortly after their debuts, and their editors were also friends during their time writing for Jump. Some of Hara's assistants actually went on to work for Araki after Fist of the North Star ended, and their background work can be seen throughout early parts of the manga. The two have remained friends for many years. In 2017, they got together for an interview where they discussed their editors and stories of their early careers. In August of 2024, Hara wrote a column in the newspaper The Nikkei all about Araki. He commented on the poses that Araki draws, which he says led him to creating more elaborate poses himself. He says that they both subconsciously influenced each other over their careers. He mentions that he doesn't have a wide circle of friends, but his friendship with Araki is rare and long-lasting. Their wives are even close too, with him
that's
writing that they
nice
had
as well.
dinner
I
as
like
couples
that.
twice recently.
Sick.
As a bit of a tangent, I've actually made a video about Araki's wife before, since she
I
herself
think
has
that's
shared
where
many
it's come
interesting
up then,
stories
'cause I was
about
feeling
Araki.
like there was some
The stuff she talks
similarities
about
there
is
from
really
something
interesting,
already.
so I do recommend checking out that video
So
if you're
that's
interested.
where Right.
Hara goes on to say that he and Araki both love satire and find it fun to sarcastically insult each other. Although Hara rarely makes public appearances, he says that he made an exception in 2017 since it would be with Araki. He closes by saying that since he usually works as an artist with a separate writer, Araki's work has taught him a lot about storytelling. When he told this to Araki, Araki asked him to make that known, which is why he wrote the column. I initially only planned on covering those panels referencing Fist of the North Star, but I actually ended up learning a lot more about Araki and Hara's friendship, which ended up being really fascinating.
That is cool.
In this series, I've gone over all kinds of JoJo events and attractions.
Ooh, escape rooms and stuff, yeah?
And in particular, the JoJo escape room.
Yeah!
Before, I went over the 3 main escape rooms based on parts 3, 4, and 5, as well as 2 others more recently. Now, though, I want to take a look at the most recent version of these, Escape from JoJo's Bizarre Nightmare, themed around Part 6.
So cool!
This attraction ran from October of 2023 to January of 2024 in Japan. Like the other escape rooms, here you and your teammates take on the role of the Part 6 main characters and solve puzzles using their stand abilities. One of the most notable things about the JoJo escape rooms is how they often include completely original
New
stands or
characters.
characters.
Yeah, very cool. Oh, so, okay, so they're okay.
The same is true here with this escape room's villain,
Right.
Moschino. Like most Part 6 characters, he's named after a fashion brand. Moschino is a guard at the Green Dolphin Street prison who traps people with his stand, Tangerine Dream. Chronologically, the story of this escape room seems to take place between the fight with Whitesnake and the jailhouse Lockhart.
Okay.
The official summary says that the group hears a voice in the prison saying it was a dream world that they created. The 4 wake up in a warped version of the prison and have to escape. Tangerine Dream's ability traps people within a dream world, and people inside can't escape unless they find a key to awakening within the prison.
Very cool. There we have the narrative. Awesome.
Now, like the other escape rooms, there is a strict no spoilers policy, so we have very little information about it online.
I appreciate that. That's so cool. Like, I'd love to do one of these, going in blind and then just trying to make it JoJo's. Like, wow.
But we can see...
But, like, do you know what? I've just realized this. Don't know why I literally have no friends that watch JoJo's. I have no friends that watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. At all. No one I know, personally, watches JoJo's. Oh my god.
the trailers the kind of locations and puzzles that are involved. For the merch, we have the typical fare with stuff like a hoodie, badges, and stickers.
That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Oh, so if next year I did a thing where if I get my mates Dan and Steve to watch, like, part 1 of JoJo's and then sit down and ask them what they think about it and then do part 2 and then 3, 4, 5, 6. And then... and then I could do stuff from these to, like, ask them... Yo!
And for the food, we have latte art of the characters, as well as a mixed berry flavor drink for Anasui and a weather report drink that looks like his hat. In July of 2024, Araki unveiled his first ever public art piece. It's called The Fountain Boy and is located near Osaka Station. We got a glimpse of him working on this back in May, and I was very interested in seeing what it would look like since he's doing some work with stained glass. The finished product is stained glass mounted inside of a stone sphere.
That looks so cool.
The main subject is the titular Fountain Boy, which Araki says was based on a statue that was once in the area, which is now in a museum. He says that fountains symbolize natural phenomena that cleanse and purify the world, and that stands in JoJo also fit a similar concept. So he felt that including some stands was necessary as well. 7 stands are shown in the art piece: November Rain, Star Platinum, Killer Queen, D4C, Stone Free, Gold Experience, and Tusk. Araki says that the stands are actually in order of their strength and power, although I'm not sure what the exact order here is meant to be. He decided to include November Rain since it's a stand that makes rain for the fountain. I really like the art piece, and Araki seems proud of it as well, saying it was a new challenge to draw a circular illustration. As anyone watching would know, each part of JoJo has a title. However, some of these titles are easier to understand than others. For example, Steel Ball Run is pretty self-explanatory, and JoJolian's title is actually very significant to the meaning of the story.
Okay.
But a lot of people have wondered what the other titles actually mean. Like, how does the name Battle Tendency relate to the story itself?
Oh, yes, very interested, because that's the one I always forget. I can remember Phantom Blood, I can remember Stardust Crusaders, Diamond is Unbreakable, Golden Wind, Stone Ocean, and I always forget the name of part 2.
Well, Araki has actually gone over all of this before in a 2013 interview from the art book JoJo Veller.
Oh, okay.
As I went over in the second Fun Facts video, the titles for the JoJo parts as we know them weren't actually created until the time of Part 6. So Part 6 was named first, and the first 5 were given names after the fact in the JoJo A Go-Go art book in 2000. Araki says that the title of Phantom Blood is based on the blood relationship between Jonathan and Dio and the feelings of fantasy, mythology, and magic that bloodlines bring to mind. He goes on to say that battle tendency was influenced by the times. At that time in the 80s, Japan was experiencing a bubble period of constant growth.
Right.
So Araki was inspired by that to call it battle tendency, which had a general feeling of, quote, get richer, get bigger, or the tendency to grow stronger. He felt that this tied into the idea of characters getting stronger, which culminates in the ultimate being. For Stardust Crusaders, Araki says the word Stardust is associated with the Joestar family and Star Platinum, and the title creates the image of a crusade against the enemy Dio. Diamond is Unbreakable is pretty simple. It's about an indomitable fighting spirit that can't be broken, and of course that ties into Josuke and Crazy Diamond. For Part 5, which is titled Vento Oreo or Golden Wind, Araki says that the wind represents the refreshing feeling given off by Giorno. In Part 6, Araki says the ocean in Stone Ocean represents Jolene's femininity, like the phrase Mother Ocean or how ships are often named after women.
Oh, right, because I thought it was, like, to do with the prison.
And the stone invokes the image of a stone prison.
Right.
Araki also mentions that the minerals like diamond, gold, and stone were added to the titles to represent the protagonist's stands, which is pretty obvious. When starting Part 7, Araki chose the title of Steel Ball Run, which he said creates a sense of unstoppability and because it reminds him of the race and the image of steel. Here, Araki also mentions JoJolian's title and that he wanted to include the word JoJo and give it a monumental feeling. In the JoJolian Volume 2 author's note, he says that the title signifies the existence of the protagonist Josuke, and how he was created through a kind of divine providence. He went on to say that he actually made a few different titles for Part 8. One of them was
I can't help but feel I'll be stuck in this
JoJomenon,
video
combining JoJo and Phenomenon, which was later used as the title of a commemorative magazine.
Okay.
He also considered JoJo Town since it took place in Morio. The meaning of the title for Part 9, The JoJo Lands, isn't known yet, but I've gone over it before in the 6th Fun Facts video where he also had some prototype titles. As a bonus, we also have Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan. This spin-off actually has 2 titles. In Japanese, it's titled Kishibe Rohan Does Not Move. Araki says that this refers to the fact that Rohan isn't the main character, but the navigator or narrator of the story, so he doesn't move while the story does.
Right, okay.
The English title of Thus Spoke seems to be referencing Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a book by the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. Although I've actually seen the phrasing of Thus Spoke being used in even older texts, so it may just be a general way of showing that Rohan is the narrator speaking to tell us the story.
Okay.
One interesting stand that you may have never heard of is this one, JoJo Sapiens. It doesn't come from any JoJo story, but instead it was designed by Araki as part of the Ripples of Adventure art exhibition in 2018. The stand's ability is to create the ultimate JoJo human, who then becomes the user of the stand.
Oh.
This was tied into a survey that was conducted with the exhibition on JoJoSapiens.com. There people would answer various questions, so there would be an average of the opinions of all JoJo fans, which comes together to make the ultimate JoJo human. These include simple questions like age and relationship status, and more complicated things like their answer to the trolley problem. I think the data is actually very interesting, so I want to take a look at the highlights. We see that the average JoJo fan's gender is almost an even split, trending slightly male.
That's so cool!
They're about 24.9 years old, 165 centimeters or about 5'4", and 58.7 kilograms or about 129 pounds. 2/3 are not in a relationship and they've dated an average of 2.9 people. Surprisingly, 19% have cheated in a relationship, although I hear that's pretty common in Japan. 51% say they would die for their lover. For the trolley problem, 67% would pull the switch to run over one person instead of multiple. Then we have some top 3 rankings of things like favorite food or alcoholic beverages. When asked what their favorite non-Araki manga is, the top 3 are One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, and Dragon Ball.
Sounds about right.
More JoJo fans are cat people than dog people, and the vast majority don't smoke. The average JoJo fan IQ is 112, and 83% think aliens exist.
Nice. Nice.
For their top 3 fears, they're people, ghosts, and death. We can actually see some of the other responses here. One person says they're afraid of being too big a fan of La Squadra and it might interfere with their upcoming exams. For the top 3 fetishes, we have legs, hands, and voices. The average JoJo fan annual income is 3.533 million yen, or about $32,000 at that time. In a 50-meter dash, their average time is 8.26 seconds. They are also
This is a lot of information.
asked what their greatest crime is. For this one, we just have a long list of responses, some of which are pretty funny.
Do we have some stealing umbrellas? I hear that's the most common crime within Japan.
I ate a whole watermelon. Friendly fire in a certain FPS game. I turned my friend into a Fujoshi. Being born. Being too beautiful.
Damn.
I ate dried radishes. Overcatching dragonflies. And finally, nothing. All of my actions are justice. Lastly, we have questions related to JoJo. When asked their favorite part, we see part 5 is the most popular, with parts 3 and 4 being the next highest.
That's interesting. Part 5 is the most popular. Wow. Okay. Phantom Blood is like pretty much the lowest. That's crazy.
JoJolion is the lowest at 7%. We also have their top 20 stands with Star Platinum winning, and favorite fights with Jotaro vs. Dio at the top.
Sick.
Here we have some of the lower rankings like Jonathan vs. Danny at number 88, referring to the time that Danny bit him as a child.
Ugh.
Then there's character deaths that make you cry, which Caesar won.
Caesar's the one. Caesar!
Very low ranked, we have Kozaku Kawajiri, who of course died off screen before we ever met him. For favorite hairstyles, we have Jolene, Rohan, and Kakyoin in the top 3. Very low in the ranking, we also have Alessi, Pet Shop, and Wekapipo's brother-in-law. And for the last one, how has JoJo changed your life, with various responses. After the survey was over, the answers were combined to design what the ultimate JoJo human would look like. As you can see, they have their favorite Jolene hairstyle, their favorite color blue is very prominent, and they have their alcoholic drink of choice, wine.
Nice.
One other option of the survey was actually to describe your face and even submit a picture, where they calculated the average face symmetry to pick the user's look. So here you have it, this person is the average JoJo fan, at least in Japan.
That's so random, I love it.
Part 9 has been publishing for about a year and a half at this point, and I'm really liking how it's turning out. One little thing I've had a lot of fun with since it started, though, is actually some of the stuff you can find hidden in the background. For example, back in the 90s...
Wow.
You do that, the first result is a video. I actually think I've included a lot of things that could use some further fleshing out.
Right.
For some examples, I actually...
Cool. Felt like there were some of the things there, so that's some really cool, interesting stuff in that. For Vex, I love the escape room stuff and the events and that. It's cool, but that questionnaire was so random for like all the details. But I like they throw funny little bits in as well. That was awesome. So that was JoJo Fun Facts number 8, and then I am going to check out. Where's that look? Yeah, debunking Araki Forgot Extras 8 through 11 very soon. Thank you very much for watching.
Click like, subscribe. Pixel Party Pals! Pixel Party Pals!